What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Footy Talks. In this video, we're going to go ahead and be going over Real Madrid against Oviedo. Real Madrid go away with a win to Oviedo and do get a win 3-0 against them. And this is Oviedo's first home La Liga game since 2001. So it has been over 24 years since they played in the league overall. And there are a few takeaways that we could get from this game against Oviedo for Real Madrid. We do need to talk about the performance, the goals, and certain players that do need to be talked about. As you know, with the lineup and the players coming on, there were a few things that we do need to look at. I do also want to apologize for bringing this video a little bit later. I know that it's not ideal for the video to come out this late, but I did need to go ahead and, cover this match in specific. I mean, I saw Real Madrid win and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna cover it. Nah, I'm just joking. But for those of you guys that are new, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Your guys' support truly does go a long way in motivating me to keep these videos going. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So Real Madrid start off with this lineup right here. Now, I think going into the match, Real Madrid fans and even neutral fans would have been a little bit surprised with this lineup right here, as Xavi sends out a big statement. He makes 4 changes to the lineup in total. Some of the changes being Brahim Diaz being swapped out for Masantuano, which isn't too much of a surprise, but also just goes to show that Xabi Alonso really does have faith in the young Argentinian. We did have Trent swapped out for Carvajal, as Trent didn't really have a great game the last game against Osasuna, so it just goes to show that Trent may have genuine competition for that right back position against the likes of Carvajal. So Carvajal did get the nod ahead of Trent, but we would see Trent later on in the second half. And in the center back position, we did have Militao swapped out for Rudiger. Now, right there, it's a little bit of a surprise, but then again, not too much, as Rudiger was one of the main center backs last season, and Militao, he is just getting back from the ACL injury. So, it's good for Xabi Alonso to keep the rotation in the center backs, just to have them match ready and be ready for any match. I think the only center back that does have their position secure, it is Dean Huijsen, but the other center back position is really up for grabs, in all honesty. And I think the most notable change that there was to the lineup compared to the last match, it's Vinicius being benched. Vinicius was swapped out for Rodrigo, and honestly, this was a really big statement from Xabi Alonso, in particular, for this change right here, as we've seen in the last matches under Xabi Alonso that Vinicius hasn't been playing great, and it looks like his intensity, his work ethic, his intention to play is not really all there. So Rodrigo was swapped out, or Vini was swapped out, and Rodrigo was put in. Basically, that was the change that Xabi Alonso did make to the lineup. Now, going into the match, I think Real Madrid overall did look okay. You could tell with the changes that they did make to the front line that Real Madrid's attack in particular looked more lively. You have Masantuano looking to get involved, whether it was receiving the ball out wide and looking to cut in and make a pass or shoot, or him just simply cutting in, trying to find the ball more in the center. And as for Rodrigo, I think Rodrigo looked more lively in terms of, his positioning, his movement, and him linking up, in particular with Mbappe. He was actually, doing little passes here and there with Mbappe. He was receiving the ball out wide, sometimes in the middle, and letting the likes of Alvaro Carreras overlap or underlap. And as for Alvaro Carreras, before we do get back to Rodrigo, I think he's been looking really good for Madrid in these past 2 games. In Osasuna, he did look really good, and in this game, he also looks really good. I think, like Dean Huijsen, Alvaro Carreras is a huge upgrade in the center back position, in the back line, in the left back position. And I think he is also another defender that does have his starting position secured if he keeps up playing in that good form and just keeps improving from there. But going back to Rodrigo, I think Rodrigo looked a lot more lively. He wasn't just walking around the pitch, not really looking to cause a threat. He was receiving the ball, like I said, in different positions. He was actually looking to take his man on, although sometimes not successful. Maybe he could work on his one-on-ones. There were a few moments where he actually did dribble past his man and look to take a shot on goal, and he did have a few bright moments. I think Rodrigo, the thing with him is that he's a confidence player. That's the thing with him. He's a confidence player, and he just needs to be more consistent if he does want to compete for a starting lineup, for a starting position in the lineup. But that's what we saw from Rodrigo. And Real Madrid in the first half, they do eventually get their first goal. The first goal, I do have to be honest, in the build-up, it was a bit controversial. I'm not really one to talk about refs, but I do have to say this, that La Liga refs are very inconsistent whenever it comes to marking fouls. Because the way the first Madrid goal happens is that it was a Madrid midfielder. They win the ball back from Real Oviedo, and the slide tackle, it just comes from behind, and the Madrid player doesn't really get much of the ball, but he dinks it off the Real Oviedo player, and before you know it, you have Madrid going on a mini counter attack. So Madrid won the ball back in the middle of the park, and with one pass they let Mbappe go, and Mbappe, I do have to say, he does a good finish, and before you know it, the goal is 1-0. But I mean, you guys let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I mean, do you guys think it was a foul right there in the build-up? I thought personally it was a foul, as any other place in the area, if it were to happen, it would have been marked a foul, but in this case it wasn't. But it is what it is. Madrid, they go into the first half winning 1-0, and that was basically sums up the first half overall. And let's go ahead and get on to the second half. Now, going into the second half, Real Madrid, they did start off the second half as they did the first half. They were dominating the ball, keeping Real Oviedo pinned back, and for the most part, they were finding it hard to create clear-cut chances against Real Oviedo, because I mean, as I've mentioned, and I'll keep mentioning it, when it comes to these low block or deep block teams in La Liga, they do tend to drop back and defend, and that's what Real Oviedo were doing. In the second half though, Real Oviedo, they actually did have a few chances against Madrid, but they just never really got going against Madrid. Madrid had them dominated for the most part and pinned back. Eventually, Madrid did end up making substitutes in around the 60th minute or so. They did end up bringing Vini on and Brahim Diaz for Masantuano, and also for Rodrigo. And Rodrigo coming off, if you were to see the match, or I'm not sure if it shows in the highlights, but he did look really frustrated when he did come off. Whether it was because of the way he played or him coming off for the likes of Rodrigo, for the likes of Vini, sorry, who knows? But that is something to look out for, and we'll have to see, how things develop from there in that left wing position in particular, because when Vini came on, he actually did make an impact. When he came on, he looked a little bit more lively. It wasn't just him walking around. He was actually jogging a little bit, showing a little bit effort when Madrid didn't have the ball to get into the right position to make interceptions or not let Real Oviedo build up comfortably. So that was okay to see from Vini. He was showing a little bit more effort than he usually does. And before you know it, the second goal actually does come from Vini's efforts. So Vinicius, like I said, he was showing a little bit more effort when he came on, and the second goal came from Vinicius pressing a Real Oviedo player and winning the ball back in a dangerous area in the middle. And he lays off the ball to Mbappe. Mbappe finishes it, and before you know it, it's 2-0 for Madrid. And that second goal, the way it happened with Vinicius showing effort to actually press and win the ball back in a dangerous area, that's what Real Madrid needs more of from Vinicius. Vinicius just can't be walking around the pitch and, watching the ball being knocked around. When you press, especially against a team that doesn't know how to circulate the ball well or doesn't handle pressure well, you force things like that, which could lead to goal scoring opportunities, and in this case we saw that. So we'll have to see how that goes, but Vinicius wasn't done there. Vinicius, he actually did end up scoring the third goal. So the third goal, again, it came from a turnover, and Real Madrid have the ball on the right hand side and they cross it into the box, in and around the box, and it happens to be Vinicius that picks it up. And Vinicius, as coolly as you like, he finishes it and he gets a goal and an assist in this match, which did make for an overall good appearance for Vinicius. But that's the thing with Vinicius, he just can't have these matches or these little glimpses for 20 minutes in a match. He needs to show this consistently on every match that he's in if he does want to stay in the starting lineup, because like I said, Rodrigo, he had a good game, he had an okay game, and like I said, if Rodrigo happens to get his confidence back and goes to being a good player that Madrid fans and even neutral fans know he could be, then he could be good for Madrid. But it's just a matter of how Vinicius continues on. It looks like he did take the message from XABI Alonso, but we'll have to go ahead and see. He did show glimpses of what he could do if he really does put in the effort. And yeah, that basically summarizes Madrid right there in this match. I mean, in the second half, we also did see the likes of Gonzalo Garcia, Trent, and Dani Ceballos, but honestly, they didn't really have too much of an impact when they came on, which is why I didn't really mention them. But what I noticed from Madrid's match overall, it was a really important win. Obviously, they get the 3 points to keep up with Barca in the league race. I mean, these are the matches that you're supposed to win. At least they did win the match, unlike some other teams. But Madrid are still definitely a work in progress. I've noticed that these Madrid goals all came from turnovers, which could be something for XABI Alonso to look at, as Madrid, we've known as a counterattack team, they could be really dangerous. Maybe that's a strength that XABI Alonso could use to be able to hurt bigger opponents or hurt certain teams. But that's something that I've noticed. The thing that Madrid really lack, that I've seen so far, and you guys let me know down in the comments below what you guys think, but I just think that the Madrid midfield needs creativity. Whether it's through the players that they do have being more creative, or XABI Alonso finding a creative solution in that midfield, they need to be more creative in general. And that's, I know that's a criticism towards Madrid, so especially so early on in the season. The good thing is that the season is young, so XABI Alonso could go ahead and figure things out, but Madrid are definitely a work in progress. You guys let me know what you guys think down in the comments below of what you guys made of Madrid's performance. Do you guys think Vinicius will keep this form going that he showed in the last 20 minutes? Do you think Rodrigo should be starting over Vinicius still? Or how do you think Madrid can improve from this performance? You guys let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. For those of you guys that did tune into the video, like I've said before, and I'll keep saying it over and over again, I do appreciate it. Your guys' support truly does go a long way and helps me with keeping these videos going. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.